Hi, my name is Cindy Rang with the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington. Our website is www.fabricpatch.net, and we are going to do a quick video about how to construct the Jessie Killian mask. And every time, I think the last 3 videos that we've done, we've said this is our last mask video. So this is officially our 3rd last video, but we just want to make sure that you guys have all of the information you need in order to construct your masks. I know that I am not everybody's cup of tea because I talk a lot. But the reason that I talk a lot is because I want to know the reason why. So I'm not just going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you why I do what I do so that you can decide if that works for you or not. So we are going to go through the patterns, how to alter a pattern, how to change the pattern for Jessie's mask. This was the one, if you watched our video last week, we discussed this because most of the masks we've made now, over 170,000 masks, all that were given away, and we've done Craft Passions pattern. We liked her pattern the best just because it seems to be a bit generic. There's only 4 sizes. They were fitting just about everybody. But now that we're done with all of the donations, what we are wanting is people want to know how to make a mask that they can keep, that they can wear, that fits them perfectly through shopping, through flu season, through winter, through whatever. And that's where the Jessie Killian mask comes in. And that's what we're going to talk about today. If you missed last week's video, you can still find that on YouTube. But just briefly, I want to mention a couple things about last week's video. We've been doing YouTube videos not for a long time, but we started making masks on March 9th. And when we started doing videos, we explained a lot of different things and the process, and we didn't necessarily re-explain that with every video. So we talk about what type of filtration we like to use, what types of products you can use, what happens when you can't find what you want. And again, you have to decide for yourself what mask will work for you. A lot of people like a mask with a disposable filter, something that you can put something in and take it out. For me personally, I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't want to handle something. I didn't want to run out of that filtration piece. And I knew that no matter what, I needed to wash this mask every day, and maybe multiple masks per day. So I wanted everything to be washable. And our mantra was that it had to be wearable, washable, and breathable. You don't want to wear something that's too hot, and you obviously want to be able to breathe through it so you can wear it for extended periods of time. And again, you want to be able to wash it, otherwise you're constantly remaking things. So for us, what we chose was a non-woven material in the inside. And again, you can watch those other videos, but the idea of a non-woven is it's almost like paper. And so if you have the right product for the inside, particles are not going to make it through. The thing that we've settled on that we like the most is the Oli. It comes in lots of different colors, but it's basically the same thing as Halyard 600, which is surgical sheeting. And Olifun is the fabric equivalent to that. It's 100% polypropylene. And again, all of that information is on the other videos, so you just make your decision for yourself if you want to put a pocket in there for a filter or not. So now that I'm a retired nurse practitioner and a quilt shop owner, that I work with my daughter. So last time people were concerned because I was all up in her business, but I'm all up in her business all day long. Every day, in lots of ways. I still hug her a couple times a day. So we share the same air. And what happens is we are in a quilt shop that is closed. We have a 5,000 square foot quilt shop in Central Washington, and that's what we do now. So having a medical background but a knowledge of fabrics, that was why it made sense for us to develop the masks. And most of our friends are quilters and healthcare professionals, and so it was an easy transition for us to find an army of people that would help us to make the masks to give to our first responders. So that being said, that's why last time I was telling people that I take my mask and I put it on like a necklace every morning. That freaked people out. Here, I want to tell you, don't just walk around wearing your mask like a necklace. That wasn't really what I meant. I mean, that is what I said, that is what I mean, but Brianna and I are in this shop all by ourselves. Nobody else is in here. We're sharing each other's air. We're contaminating each other, no one else. What happens is maybe once a day, maybe 3 times a day, somebody pulls up for curbside pickup. So my whole thing is I didn't want to put the mask on, take the mask off, put the mask on, set it down, put it in my pocket, because you don't necessarily know what those surfaces are like, and where did I set it down, how long did it sit there, what is now dirty. So when I keep it here, what's happening is these germs are these germs. So these are her germs, it's no big deal. So if she's gonna dash out real quick and just talk to somebody, she's just gonna hold it up over her face, because the whole idea with this is she's now keeping her germs to herself. She's not gonna breathe on anybody in that car. Now, it is true that she and I are touching the outside of this mask. Well, I should have mentioned, of course you wash your hands. Of course you wash your hands. You wash your hands after you touch everything. And the other thing though is people were concerned because they said, well, this is so filthy dirty. Well, that could be, so let's say that she went into Walmart. So go ahead and put it on all the way. And if she's going into Walmart where she's, again, keeping her germy breath to herself, she's going to maintain that 6-foot distance, but also keep anybody else's germy breath. Now, it's true that this is dirty, but this is no dirtier than this. This is no dirtier than this. So all of this air is the same air. So even though she's touching the outside of that mask, and now here I'm touching my hair. Oh, people are going to say something about that. But she's still going to wash her hands. Mm-hmm. She's still going to wash her hands. She's just, and this advice, this is me being a quilt shop owner, quilt shop co-owner, hanging out, going out for curbside service. This is what works for us. Mm-hmm. If you are out and about, the other thing that I see is I see people in their cars with their mask on. That's great, but if you're getting a little bit hot, same idea. That's all I meant, is just have it ready to go, because your air in your car is your air. You're probably okay. You just want to have it ready, because people that would pull up and be digging around in their purse for their mask, and that's what I kept thinking is, oh my God, don't put that on. You know, where has that been? And, you know, picking it up. So that's my only thought, is that you do want to keep it clean. And I'm just going to review a couple of great comments that we heard after last week's video, and then we're going to get right into the sewing. So if you feel like you've already been constructing the masks and you don't need the tutorial, you won't necessarily need to stay around for that. But let me just share a couple of quick things with you. We are going to talk about measurement with Jesse's mask, and we are going to talk about, if you don't fit into any of his 18 sizes, how you can adjust that pattern, and we're going to share that in just a minute. But there was a couple things that were super brilliant, and people kept asking about the t-shirts and said, well, can you just show that? So let me just show you. This is just a t-shirt, a knit t-shirt, and all you have to do is take this and cut. We were cutting 1-inch strips, and if you just cut a 1-inch strip, you know, and depending upon how big your t-shirt is, you can cut this. This is a 12-inch strip of that. And all you have to do is pull it, and if you stretch it, see, the whole thing curls up itself. So people were asking questions about the t-shirt material. And then it's flat at this end, so you're able to go ahead and tuck it in there after you've sewn your mask and you've turned it right side out. You're able to go ahead and take this, tuck this in there where you want them to be, and top sew that down so you have your ties. So these are super nice. You can also do the same thing. It is stretchy material, so you can go ahead and do it with your ears, but people were asking about adjustable earpieces. And this was Todd from maybe also Atlanta. Todd was showing this, which was super smart. And so what he did was he either took elastic pieces or the t-shirt pieces, and all he did was he just took a pony bead wrapped this around, threaded the bead through there. There we go. Then you can just hold that up and pull that onto there. And if you've pulled that onto there, then what you have is this adjustable slide so that you can make your earpiece fit you. I haven't personally tried that to see if that's going to hit my ear, but I don't think that it is, because this is on this side and this is on that side. So that was just a really nice little tip that Todd shared. Another tip that was really good was I had showed in the last video how to stretch your paracord and then burn it. And oh my gosh, probably 50 people told me, all you have to do is pull those out. So look how smart that is. I learned something new. And then you can just flatten that whole thing and it's not quite as stiff and it ties a little easier. And you can do the same thing. You can do that same adjustable paracord with that same bead. So you have that same thing. So anyway, that was sort of smart. So I just wanted to share those. And then people were asking about the coffee closures and they said, now explain again what those are. So I meant to bring my bag of coffee, but on your bag of coffee, this is what's on there. So that when you go to seal your coffee back up, it's, you know, it's like that. So if you have a local coffee company, they will probably just give them to you. If not, you can order these on Uline and they're super inexpensive. And again, the ones that we like, they have just a little bit of an adhesive because of course that's what they're for, is to put on the coffee bag and that'll hold it in place. And I'll show you these when we're constructing our mask. So, oh, one other last thing is people were asking about the measurements. What is the measurement for around the head? And when we talk about the constructing the mask, go ahead and let me just show you something. So everybody is different. When we were making all of these masks that we were sending out, we pretty much did ties, just because, you know, as long as we knew if they had a large face, small face, whatever, a beard, this was going to fit. But the ties, the elastic is very, very, very different. We found the same thing was true with the size of the head. I mean, how big is the head? And so we measured a bunch of people's heads. Everybody was way, way, way different. So again, now that you are making a mask for you personally, your husband, your daughter, your whoever, you really have an opportunity to take some measurements. And I should mention too that the reason there's no children's sizes is because if you're 2 and under, you should not wear a mask. They're not supposed to, because they'll actually get hypoxic. Mm-hmm. So
they shouldn't go to the grocery store anyways.
No, they need to stay home anyway.
Take a mom vacation, go grocery shop all by yourself.
You've been liking that.
It's super nice.
Yeah. So what you're going to do, if you're going to do this type of mask, which people are liking, and Brianna, again, they freak out that I touch this and she's putting it on, but I know. I'm a total germaphobe. You might not believe it, but there's double dippers never get invited to my house again. Mm-hmm. There has never been a 5-second rule at our house. If it's dropped, it's dead. And if people come in and they have some sort of a cough or a cold, yeah.
She chases them with Lysol.
I am not nice about it. I'm not nice. I've had cancer twice. I have immunosuppression going on. So I feel a little vindicated now with these masks, because now when flu season comes and our shop finally reopens, they are going to have a mask on. So I feel good about the whole mask thing. So anyway, all right. Okay, so she's got this on and she's got this measurement here. And that's why people like this, because her hair's not getting all messed up with the ties and it's really staying in place. And you don't have to worry, we're going to turn you this way, you don't have to worry about the back of the ear thing. So people are asking, well, what is the measurement of this? Okay, we're going to take that down again for a second, or take it off. So just do the measurement. And so what we're measuring, so here we have our little tape. I know you're not going to be able to see this, so just trust me that we're measuring from where the mask is going to end, which is going to be about there. So go ahead and turn for me, Brianna. We're going to come over and we're going to measure right here. And so she is roughly 12 inches is that measurement. So the magical number when you're dealing with anything elastic is 2/3. 2/3, because what you want to do is, if this is 12 inches, then 2/3 of 12 inches is going to be 8 inches. So this piece is 8 inches long, because then it'll fit 2/3 and stretch another 1/3, which will keep it tight. So that's the magic number for waistbands, it's the magic number for your hat band, it's the magic number for all of that. Measure that number, whatever that is, your elastic strap should be 2/3. If you want it to be very specific, keep in mind where you might be wearing it, and you might have a measurement here, and you might have a measurement here. Again, if you feel like, you know, you really want to make sure you have a perfectly fitting mask, one that you're going to be washing and hanging onto, those are just the measurements that will help. All right. I feel like we've answered the burning questions that people had. The last thing before we get into resetting up to sew is people had questions about printing the pattern. So Jesse, again, one of my new favorite people, he is an engineer. He is a numbers guy. He wanted to make sure that it was easy, but in making sure that it was easy, the pattern is 18 pages. Because what he did is, do you have a narrow face, an average face, or a wide face? And so you choose that number, and then he wants to know what is the measurement from your nose to your chin, and you have 6 different options for that. So you really start with a really good measurement, and we'll review this in just a second. But people were saying they couldn't print off the pattern to get the scale correct, because he has a little scale measurement up here. What you do is, it's a printer setting. So what you have to do is make sure that your printer is set print to scale, not print to page. And then it'll print to the correct scale, and then you'll be okay. So, all right, we're gonna get reset up, and then we'll see you right back. We're gonna go ahead and talk about Jessie Killian's mask. And again, people keep asking, well, where's Jessie's website? Where can we buy Jessie's mask? Jessie, again, a friend, an engineer who loves numbers, loves designing things. He has no website. He's just interested in a good fit, and he understands CAD programs and numbers, and so he's done a great job with this. The only thing is that it's 18 pages. We talked about that earlier. So what you want to do is you want to start with some measurements. So if you are making masks for family who is maybe a couple states away or whatever, you can still do that if you just have a couple numbers. So we'll use Brianna again. So what you want to know is, you want to know nose to ear measurement. And by nose to ear measurement, and again, on our website, we have a little diagram with an arrow that shows. So we're going from the bridge of the nose, so right where the glasses would set, and we're gonna go right to the edge here, and we're gonna come around to in front of the ear. So with Brianna, that happens to be 5 inches. So that's her measurement from nose to ear. The other thing that I want to know is, I want to know nose to chin. So I'm going to go in exactly the same spot, and I'm going to come down to just underneath the chin, so that if I kind of put my finger there, it's going to rest right underneath her chin. That measurement on her from nose to chin was 4.5 inches. And then again, I showed earlier, if somebody wants the elastic that goes all the way around the back, know that measurement also. So once you have that measurement, we'll be able to look at the pattern. The way that Jesse wrote his pattern is that once you have those 2 numbers, he actually has a little graph that will explain that you might have a narrow face, an average face, or a wide face. You can look through all of that if you want to, if you're kind of a numbers person, but basically the easiest thing to do is find the closest pattern to your measurement. So for Brianna and I both, this was the one that fit us the best. We couldn't find one that was exactly 5 inches from nose to ear and 4.5 from nose to chin. But we found one that was similar. So if you have to modify the pattern, you would modify this pattern in the same way that you would a dressmaker's pattern. So what we would do, and you know, let me just show you this for a second. That was why I left this one here. Is that, see the difference? Look at the difference between this pattern. So if somebody has a longer face, that's why it's important to know. Look at how, if I made this mask for somebody who had this size face, it would never fit. If I made this big, huge mask for somebody who had a smaller face, it's not going to fit. even though the length might be the same. You might find another one where maybe this part is the same, but look at the length that's different. You don't want that gap at the end. So that's why the measurements are a nice thing. Okay, so let's go back to how to adjust this measurement. So just like it's a dress pattern, if what our problem is that this measurement, the nose to chin measurement, if I need to take 1/4 of an inch out of there, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my scissors, I'm going to cut into here, and then I'm going to overlap this by 1/4 of an inch. Okay, I thought I would just go ahead and show this process and maybe alleviate some of the questions. So if you remember, the mask that we're making is for somebody who has a 4.5 inch measurement from nose to chin and a 5 inch measurement from nose to ear. The closest one that I could find was a 4 3/4 and a 5 1/8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this. You can see that this is where I've made my cut, and I just have this little mat here, and so here's my 1/4 inch measurement. Here's an 1/8, here's a 1/4 right here. So I've got this lining up right on the edge, and I'm going to overlap this to the 1/4 inch. See where that's at? I'm going to take a piece of tape, and I'm going to tape that. So now I'm a 4.5 inches here. So this one is 5 1/8. So I'm going to decrease this measurement by 1/8. And since this is from nose to ear, I have to decrease this measurement across the bottom and across the top. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you're not on the curve when you're doing that and that you're doing it on the straight of way. So same thing is going to happen. I'm going to come over here, and here's my 1/8 of a measurement right here. So I'm just going to lay that there, and I'm going to overlap that line by 1/8 of an inch. The truth is, I probably wouldn't change this by 1/8 of an inch. I probably would just sort of let it go, but I feel like just to be able to show you how to do it, I'm just going to show you. And then this one, so see how that would kind of pucker? I'm just going to go ahead and tear that the rest of the way and overlap that. And see where I'm at? There I am. I'm going to come over 1/8 of an inch. And so you can see how easy that would be to modify this pattern. You could modify this pattern even if you were adjusting it by a full inch, a 1/2 inch, whatever you needed to, it doesn't matter. Once you have this pattern and you have the measurements on there, go ahead and label it, tape it, close it back up, and label it so you know whose it is, because then what you're going to do is you'll trace it onto your freezer paper. So when you've traced it onto your freezer paper, again, what's going to happen is when I iron this, it's going to stick to that, so that then I can go ahead and cut all the way around. So that's what I've done here, is I went ahead and had my fabric wrong sides together. You can also do right sides together, or I think Jesse writes on his pattern face to face, which is right side to right side. I've done the same thing. My lining material of choice is the Olifun or the Hilliard 600, basically the surgical sheeting, which is going to stop things that are 0.01 micron. So I have these. So now what I'm going to do is, oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to cut one other set of these, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to the sewing machine. Okay, so I have cut out the pattern pieces, and this is really fairly similar to our very first video that we did. The construction is really not considerably different. It's just the shape is a little bit different. So if you watched that in the first video, there's probably no real reason for you to watch it this time. The only thing that I'm going to add is exactly how I put the nose piece in, because I think on our original video we were still using the aluminum and stitching through the aluminum, and I'm going to show you a little different method for that. There's lots of different ways to do it. I'm just going to show you the way that I do it. So if this is your first time making the mask, again, here's my little template. That was the exact size of the one that I'm making. I've cut out 2 pieces of my lining material. I have 2 pieces for the outside of my mask and 2 pieces for the inside of my mask. If you are using some sort of a fusible Pellon or something else, perhaps you've ironed it to the inside of your fabric, whatever it is that you're using. Again, mine of choice is the Oli. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to go ahead and put right sides together, or again, what Jessie says is face to face. And I'm going to, I have my 1/4 inch foot on my machine, because everything that you do with quilting is, your math is based on that 1/4 inch seam, and you're going to sew that curve. People ask, well, why can't you just put it on the fold so you don't have to sew that seam? But it's because it's a curve. So a fold is straight, and a curve, of course, is a curve. If you're making the model that has pleats in it, then you can put it on the fold. But of course I'm sewing this curve. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And with this one, since this is my lining, what I'm going to do with my lining is I'm going to go ahead and take my lining pieces. And so I'm actually going to sew through, oh, whoops. Sew through 4 layers. And you can, I tend not to pin. If you are making masks, you don't want to put excessive holes, so you would want to use binder clips. I should probably grab a binder clip to show you what one looks like. This is what a binder clip is. So they come in different colors, and then all it's going to do is just going to hold it so that you're not putting pinholes in anything. You can get them in different colors and they'll just hold it. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. Now we're just sewing through 4 layers, making our curve, making sure that we're staying our 1/4 inch. When we get to that binder clip, we're just going to pull that out, possibly readjust if we need to do that. Okay, and then just keep sewing. All right, so the way that I put in the nose piece is this way. So let me look here for a second. This is the top of my mask. I know that because of that great big dip right here. This is the bottom of my mask. So Jessie actually has put on the pattern, he has a little drawing there where that goes. Oh, I should remember to tell you, you actually have to clip your seams. Just a little bit, don't clip into the seam itself, but if you clip it, it'll lay flatter. So we're just gonna cut in just a little bit, okay. So we're gonna open this up, and then what I do when I put my nose clip in is these little coffee things, these are the 7-inch ones. I cut them in half, that gives me my 3.5 inches. It has that tiny little bit of adhesive on it. I'm going to come down about 1 inch, and I put this over. If you do dress seams, if you open everything up, then you know you've got all of these holes out to the outside world, so instead you want to nestle your seams so your holes. So I'm going to go ahead and, oops, put that in the center. Like that. So that's going to hold it down where it needs to be. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, lay this over the top, and this is just a little scrap piece of fabric, and I'm going to sew all the way around. Some people have found that what they wanted to do is mark that so you know where that is, but for me, I feel like I can feel it, and so I'm just going to come in here. Move my thread out of the way. Sorry. And so I am right on the edge And so I can feel it and kind of see it. And so, again, if you want to draw something so you know where it is, you can. I'm just going to come down to the end. I can feel right where that is. My needle in the down position. Turn. Turn. Oh, I didn't go enough. One more stitch. And again, you probably can't see it, but I can feel right where it's at. Just gonna keep going up. To the end. Needle down, I'm gonna turn it. I'm just going to come back and I'm just going to back stitch. All right, all you have to do is you can come in and you can trim off some of this extra stuff here. No one is going to see this, so you don't have to go super close, but you just don't have to have a whole big flap there. So then your nose piece is in here, and the inside of my mask, I do have this funny little seam. I'll trim off my little stitches there, but you don't see anything else. And that is the part that's close to my face because the inside of my mask is red. And then what we'll do, this is the outside of my mask. And again, this is the upper part because here's the great big dip. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one, turn these around so they are right sides together, or the way Jessie would say it, face to face. And I'm going to put those together, and again using my binder clip, and I'm going to nestle my seams so that all of my holes are covered. I'm going to put my little binder clip right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew this whole seam across the top all the way down. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. I'm going to nestle those seams in there. Put my little binder clip on there. And I'm going to sew that seam through all of those layers across the top and the bottom. I'm going to do that really quick and we'll be right back. Okay, so I have sewn the top seam and I've sewn the bottom seam. And so I've got my right sides together. And then the only thing I did is at one end, you can see that I sort of backstitched a couple times. The reason for that is I have to turn this whole thing right side out. Now, if you are somebody who's going to have a filter pocket or something else, you will construct this differently. But again, that's not my method or my pattern because I just want to wash the entire thing, whether you throw it in the washer or the dryer, or you hand wash it, or you microwave it. Everybody has a different idea about washing. And again, you just want to do what is most comfortable for you, make the decision that's best for you, and that's good. So you're just gonna turn it right side out, and it goes right through there without any trouble at all. And then once you've turned it right side out, you just have to kind of fuss with it a little bit. So what I do then is I go to the iron and I'm going to poke all of those out and I'm going to press all of this nice and flat all the way around so that all of my seams, what will happen is when you're pressing it, it'll give you a nice clean edge and it'll kind of seal any of those holes. So you can see that's where my nose piece is. This is the outside of my mask. All I'm going to do then is to tuck this in. And if you find that this measurement is still maybe a little bit too long, you can adjust that just a little bit if you want to, because this one you can see all I did was I tucked in about 1/4 inch. And I've pressed that down because that's what I'm going to do when I go to put in my ties. So whether it's ties, elastic, whatever you've decided to do, You're going to tuck those in, and then you're just going to top sew this closed. So that's it. There will be some independent decisions that you'll want to make, but this is the way that we construct our mask that is a personal fit and one that will last through washings and one that you can wear out and about and have for flu season. So happy sewing.